And she spoke about the possibility of the federalization of the ANC. In that context, she was pursuing the pre-Nasrec conference situation that a province like Gauteng would probably federalize itself away from the leadership that it didn't trust at the national level. But post-Nasrec, it seems that possibility of federalization still exists, but now in the form of KZN defining itself somewhat in isolation to the National Executive Committee leadership, whilst formally linked to it. So they'll still attend meetings, they'll still subscribe to certain things, but the leaders, some leaders, let me put it that way, because this is not a homogeneous province anymore. Some leaders who feel they are part of the dominant faction will carry on with whatever their wishes may be. What makes this possible? One, the fact that they are still in government, and therefore at the level of the province they are able to dispense patronage and create patronage networks with the view that they will use their power and strength in government to build up once more and reconsolidate within the party so that they win the next provincial conference. At the heart of what is facing KZN is not a difference with Cyril Ramaphosa per se. It's the fact that there is no leadership in the province and there is a pending conference. And conferences in this province have, by far and large, been highly contested. And I think what we are now entering towards is a space where those that are against what, I can call names because I'm not a comrade, so I have nothing to lose. Those that are aligned to the Sihle Zikalala Sin faction, I no longer know what to call the other faction because Senzo Mnguni is no longer here. Mike Mabuya Kulu doesn't want to own it. Cyril Kaba doesn't want to own it. But these differing factions, the other one is lobbying, I feel and I see, that there be no conference until elections. And that is because the premier is appointed at a national level, and the hope would be to capture government, and then once you've captured government, you then go on to capture the party. It's a very delicate strategy because it presupposes that you are going to do enough legwork to actually consolidate the party towards the new premier of the province, who wouldn't be A. Sihle Zikalala, for example. The danger in that is if that plan backfires, the disintegration of KZN will continue. What threatens KZN are two things, by sense of I have 2 minutes. What threatens KZN are two things. One, the fact that they have lost national influence of the ANC. That's a major thing that threatens people. Now, this province is reconsolidating from a bitter perspective of having been alienated in the last conference. I mean, I saw leaders crying. I won't mention who they were when we were at Nasrec. And this woundedness is not good because people are trying to reconsolidate KZN to go and fight back. And at that level, it's going to harm the ANC. I don't believe the rumors, by the way, that people want to fight back now. You can't call for an NGC when you don't have or command national influence. And KZN is nowhere near commanding the national influence it did pre-Pulukwane and pre-Mangaung. So there will be no calls for an NGC from KZN. I don't see, secondly, that there will be a split from KZN now, when people have not gone to a provincial conference to test themselves. Why would you leave the ANC when you can still probably win a provincial conference, consolidate your power, and use that power in government to actually govern yourself away from the mandate of the national leadership? The last thing that KZN is confronted with is a president that is departing seemingly from the Nasrec resolutions. And that is quite evident in the economic advisor that he appointed. I've read a lot, we get flimsy when we appreciate things. Yeah, it's great that a young, gifted black woman is an economic advisor to the president. The measure of an economist is their economic views and society perspectives. And Makaya's perspectives are part of this neoliberal agenda that I think Jackie has exposited well. In fact, pre-Mangaung's leadership, pre-Nasrec leadership conference, she even said, you don't need an ideology. All you need is to, we don't need ideological debates. What we need is how to implement the policies of the ANC that are there. My submission is that the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal actually went to Nasrec to say the policies of the ANC are no longer good for society's transformation and we need to change them. And they felt victorious, but they are confronted with a president who's pushing an agenda in government that is an antithesis of those resolutions. And I wonder how long the ANC now as a collective body will be persuaded that in actual fact there needs to be something done to bring to center the resolutions of Nasrec. And these are the things I feel. Confront KwaZulu-Natal, there's no leadership, and there is an almost possibility of the death and regression of the ANC in KZN. It's 5-2 happening. And the only way for this thing to be resolved is to get both factions talking and accept each other that they still need to build a movement together. If that is not achieved before any conference, the ANC in this province is going to eventually weaken and eat itself up. That's the unfortunate truth.